and after some time others also gathered. During the discussion, coincidentally, it was mentioned that Chaudhry Hakim Ali Sahib Panyari said that Hazur, today is Friday. He was of Nuha Panyar. So he said, Hazur, today is Friday, but Maulvi Abdul Karim Sahib has not come. So who will lead the Friday prayers? The promised Messiah ﷺ replied straightforwardly that we have Hafiz Sahib here. Hazur says this is referring to the companion from Wazirabad being mentioned. So he said that he would lead it. And he said, I heard this and was speechless. I was overwhelmed with the thought that before this elect of God, I am but a sinner. What would I do? And how would I stand up for this? It then came into my mind that the Friday prayer is still some time away. Maybe by then somebody else's name would be proposed to lead the prayer. But the Friday prayer finally arrived. The rows were formed and the worshippers sat down. Terrified, I sat in one of the roads towards the north or front. The azan, call to prayer, was given. The promised Messiah ﷺ asked, where is Hafiz Sahib? Somebody brought me before the promised Messiah ﷺ. I whispered into the ear of the promised Messiah ﷺ that Hazur, I am a sinner. I do not have the courage to stand in front of Hazur and say anything. The promised Messiah ﷺ said, no, you go forward. I will pray for you. So subsequently, I was sent to stand on the prayer mat. Finally, I started delivering a sermon on the trust in Allah, and I started reciting a few verses from Surah Furqan. تبارك الذي نزل الفرقان على عبده ليكون للعالمين نذيرا. I started reading some verses of this fashion. I said whatever Allah the Almighty enabled me to. I observed at a time that the promised Messiah ﷺ was praying for me, because of which my heart would open further and my understanding increased. From that day to this, by the grace of Almighty Allah, I never hesitated in any debate or speech. Alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah. And I believe that due to this, when in November 1933 I migrated, it is for this reason that I was appointed the Imam of Masjid Aqsa. He writes further another incident that on one occasion I arrived in Qadian and mentioned my case and the false litigation by the opponents, and that through giving false oaths they had stolen my house. The promised Messiah ﷺ said, Hafiz Sahib, people lose their houses on petty ceremonies and weddings of their sons. If your house was lost for the sake of God, then let it go. Allah the Almighty will give you something better. So he says that I swear by Allah, as soon as I heard these pure words, the thought vanished from my heart that I had lost my house. Then he says further that Allah the Almighty gave me land in this blessed township of Qadian and a house many times better. I was granted a wife and also children. He then writes that something related has come into my mind which I shall put to paper, so that maybe some right-minded person can benefit from it. And it is that after the demise of the promised Messiah ﷺ, one day in Masjid Mubarak, Khwaja Kamaluddin Sahib said that those who study in Madrasa Ahmadiyyat, they will become mullahs. They will become mullahs. What will they be able to do? Khwaja Sahib said proudly that propagation of the faith is our responsibility. In other words, people like Khwaja Sahib. So then he said that Madrasa Ahmadiyya should be disbanded or closed down. He writes that Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Sani, Hazrat Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad was at the time sitting down, so he stood up. And this is during the era of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I. So Hazrat Khalifatul Masih II expressed his resolve that this school, that is Madrasa Ahmadiyyat, was established by the promised Messiah ﷺ, so therefore it would continue. And inshallah, God enabling, scholars would be produced from it who would preach the truth. Hearing this, Khwaja Sahib became wonderstruck and dumbfounded. And I understood that Khwaja Sahib realized that he would fail in his objectives. Those who observe see that the students from this madrasa are preaching Ahmadiyyat in the entire world, and that mentioning the promised Messiah ﷺ is like deadly poison. So it proved to them that that was false. He writes that one day the promised Messiah ﷺ went out for a morning walk. So I and a few others went along. Amongst them was Mistri Nizamuddin Sahib, former Secretary Jamaat Ahmadiyya Sialkot, who, by the grace of God, is still alive. So he said to me, "The promised Messiah ﷺ is always very kind to you." He said that the previous commentaries are less reliable.